Welcome to SharePoint Focus, a little offshoot of our typical business focus podcast. This is week 8 of the SharePoint-centric conversation that we're having with me, Tait, of course, our M365 Practice Lead, and Alyssa Blackburn joining us from AvePoint. Today, we're going to do what everyone has to do, which is talk about AI, because it's IT and that's what we do. So we're coming at AI with a real SharePoint focus. In previous episodes, if you haven't watched them, we had a real deep dive into the fact that AI readiness comes from good data. Rubbish in, rubbish out. You can go back and look at episodes 1 through 3 to get more of a feel for that. But today we're going to try and talk about why most AI proof of concepts fail, what we can learn from those failures, and how good use of SharePoint and perhaps even AvePoint services feeds into making sure that doesn't happen to your business. Alyssa, I might just actually start with you. You were just detailing a good story out of a recent government review about Copilot rollout.
So the Australian federal government's been trialling Copilot for a little bit of time now, which is fantastic. And it's always exciting to me. I know, always exciting to me when government gets on board with things like that. But out of the report that came from that pilot program, essentially what I got from it anyway was that there were failures in it. There were successes as well, but there were failures in it really because they didn't define the outcomes that they were looking for. So it's really difficult to measure whether or not you've been successful in something if you've got nothing to measure against.
Yes.
So if you haven't defined this is what we're setting out to achieve, can we say that people are more efficient, or can we say that the decisions they made were of a better quality, or can we say that we saved X amount of money, or things like that? If you don't have those defined right at the beginning, you've really got nothing to measure against. So it can't possibly succeed. It's doomed to fail from the beginning. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Why are we here?
Exactly. So this is where outcomes at the beginning of things like this are just absolutely critical, because that's what we use to measure ROI. We have to measure against something. And if you don't have that something in there at the beginning, it's never going to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess in terms of how to set those goals, what are we seeing, Mia, whether it's you in conversations with your clients around what they want from, I guess, Copilot specifically with your M365 hat on, keeping in mind that's definitely not the only AI tool that we would be talking about here, but it is probably the most widely understood and, again, most relevant to this conversation. So I might stick with that this time. But when it comes to what people are hoping to see from a Copilot rollout, what are you most commonly hearing? Is it just, better outcomes from meetings, better access company-wide to data, making sure people access the right data? Like those are things, but what are they wanting to see from a bottom line or efficiency growth? Talk to me about what the conversations are you guys are having.
Oh, look, there's so much to unpack here. I think there's always two sides of it, okay? So you're the person, you're the business rolling it out, and then you're the end user on the other side of it. And so I guess if we start with the end user, it's really interesting because your end users, a lot of what we're seeing now, if your business hasn't already rolled out Copilot or are talking about the free version, etc., is a lot of the staff already going and having a play with the others. The others, in inverted commas. And so what happens then is the business is like, cool, we're going to now roll out Copilot. Here it is. Issue is that a lot of, those that have already used the other ones, they're like, oh, this is falling short. This isn't actually that great. And the reason being is that it all comes back down to that data piece that we've already been talking about. Or it hasn't been configured properly, or they're like, oh, I've been playing with agents, I've been creating my own stuff. And it's like, I want to do that here. So it's just, I think education, going and having a conversation around, what are we using it for? Like create a user group that brings both of those elements, or both of those, people together, the admin versus the business versus the team, the employees, the staff, and see what people are using it for, understand that use case, the scenarios, and then go, cool, well, this is actually how we can look at rolling that out in a Copilot situation. And it is a bit of a mishmash. Some people want it to summarize meeting minutes and, make them more efficient in that space. And then others are like, actually, I want it to summarize documents, but I want, it to remember this every time. So then there's more of a custom agent sort of approach. And so, Yeah, I think just understanding, like Alyssa said, why the reason for it and articulating that, and then then the rest kind of flows. But yeah, look, it's not all positive. We're getting a lot of feedback where, you know, businesses are coming to us saying that users are kind of like, it's falling short, and then businesses are saying, oh, it's not returning this investment we thought it would. But it's all coming back down to the fact that they haven't articulated the use cases or the reason why they're doing it. And the other big elephant in the room is a lot of businesses don't even have an AI use policy. Yeah. So, you know, if you don't have those guidelines in there for so many different reasons, then what are people looking like? Where are the guide rails?
The other thing that this report in the Federal Public Service came out with was a complete and utter lack of training or suggestions even for users, so that they couldn't take full advantage of it because they didn't know.
This is so true. So what is so funny is because everyone assumes that it's so easy to use that it's like, cool, well, here's AI, go for it.
Yeah.
They're forgetting the crucial part of any tech rollout. Education.
Yeah. So we've started doing this even just as a team internally because we are all on a mission to increase our own personal AI usage.
Yeah. As are we here at First Focus.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we do is we have a chat, as everyone has a chat, everyone has a group chat, but we share in that group chat, hey, I did this with AI. This was the prompts that I used.
I love that.
What I did. This is how it turned out. Here, have a look at the results that I got. Tell me what you think. We also, in like we have a weekly or fortnightly meeting, and we'll share stuff like that in there as well. Hey, this is what I did, and it's just a way of being like, you know what? I never thought of that.
I'm actually really typing a note to myself right now.
Yeah.
Cool stuff with AI. Share with team.
But we just do. We don't have a separate chat for it. We do it in our standard
I'm
group
thinking
chat,
like a huddle.
People don't have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, agreed.
It's all there where we're saying, hey, this is something really cool that I did. So what I did, this is what I shared. It was my turn to share. In fact, it's me constantly. But anyway, that's fine. What I shared recently was one where we were bringing out a new feature in one of our products. And so I got AI to help me write like a release blog for it, which was, you know, hey, this is all of the details about the feature. Now write me a blog that I can put out and help people get excited about it. Then I used AI to turn that blog into a 4-minute podcast. Yes. So you don't have time to read a whole thing. I get it. Why don't you just listen to the little 4-minute overview of it? And then I got it to write me a 90-second TikTok script between me and my 13-year-old daughter, where we could do sort of she calls me a boomer. I'm not a boomer. If anybody's wondering,
rude.
Not a boomer. I know, so rude. But between like an older person and a young person kind of thing, talking about, you know, why is this feature interesting or important or things like that. So if you don't even have the 4 minutes to listen to it, then watch the 90-second version of it. And I did all of that in under 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We had a similar thing. We rolled out Sam, which is our digital AI assistant internally. And I'll be honest, I haven't done it recently, but probably for the first 4 or 5 months in my weekly, it would be, what have you done cool with Sam this week? What have you done cool with Sam this week? And it's a great way of just, that shared learning by doing.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, the problem there, though, is if you tried using Sam, you didn't get the response you wanted. And to your point, Mia, you'd already been using Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever. You're like, well, I'm not going to try that again. You can have one shot at it. So I think that is the experience and adoption piece is why a lot of these AI processes fail, but fail against what? We come back to the ROI. So I know, Alyssa, we
have to measure.
Yeah.
Like you can't just say, oh, these are our lofty goals kind of thing. They have to actually be measurable.
Yeah.
So interestingly, the New Zealand government also just put out a new strategy called Investing with Confidence. So it was launched by the Minister for Science, Innovation and Technology, Shane Ritchie, who is basically putting a figure out there that he's saying AI can add up to $76 billion to the New Zealand economy by 2038, which is about 15% of their GDP. Massive. Now that's measurable. Like there's an actual figure there. There's something they can track. There's something that they can track over a period of time up to 2038, things like that. So that's a goal. How are they going to measure that? Like I'm kind of all right. Let's see how that goes.
As a whole economy, that can be a lot more difficult. But I hear you. Like again with First Focus, if we've got in a technology initiative or an efficiency initiative, there'll be a line in our forecast doc that speaks specifically to that ramps up over time. And that's predominantly based on there is a process we've identified at a certain volume, at a certain amount of time, which has a certain underlying cost to it, and we expect that to decrease by whatever. So I think that's the kind of, you have to have a clear process, understand the underlying cost of that, and understand how often that process happens, and then by how much you think you can reduce that. So
there's also things like, and you mentioned Copilot earlier, so let's zoom in on that one for a second.
Double click is my
double click, yes, pull the thread. Absolutely. So it's an expensive investment. It is I think you get a lot out of it. I think it's an absolutely worthwhile investment, but it's not a cheap thing to invest in. And so what we want to ensure is that if we do invest in it, we are getting a return on that. We are seeing benefits of that. So what we've started to do in AvePoint's confidence platform, particularly with one of our products called Tygraph, is starting to look at how can we actually measure Copilot success. So there's analytics that are kind of going on in the background there that can feed back to sort of an admin to sort of say, here's how your Copilot license are actually being utilized, how often they're being utilized, what kind of prompts are they using, and how successful are those prompts? Do they need to go back and amend and amend and amend?
Off as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of stuff in that space where we absolutely understand that these things need to be measurable. They need to be in your face. You need to be able to say, if I'm going to invest, for some organizations, it could be millions of dollars in AI, either building, stuff out themselves or using existing tools. You have to be able to say that it's been effective. And if not, you then have to be able to change course potentially or look at more investment in user engagement and training and things like that. So that's one of the areas that we've really wanted to focus on is how effective is your AI? And so being able to report on that and to be able to show some real measurements, I think has been a really, really great step in the right direction.
So does that report show predominantly activity, e.g., I guess, the uptake perhaps, but it would be very hard, I imagine, to go, well, just because you're getting 28 meeting summaries from person A, that means that they can actually, go to more meetings or whatever, right? So how do you tie activity to outcomes?
So I think that's what I don't think that there's a system necessarily for that, but that's where the analysis comes in. So we can present you with the information, definitely, but you then need to do some analysis about so first of all, what is your outcome? And then what is the right thing? But things like measuring, so maybe not meeting summaries, but things like measuring prompts, for example. So how many prompts do I have to enter before I actually say, yes, this is good information, or this is bad information, or I'm going to abandon, or things like that. So that you're able to measure that and say, is this actually being effective? And then that leads back into more of an information management strategy, because are the prompts failing because the information's not good or not solid, or it's redundant, obsolete, trivial kind of thing. So there's things like that. So yes, you can measure how many meeting summaries a particular person is using or what they're getting. What you can also then start to follow is, well, what did they do with that? Did they create meeting summaries that then ended up in an email to a customer that, helped outline a couple of outcomes that needed to be chased up, and then we followed those through and things like that. So you can have all the data that you want. It's about, I guess, making that link to, are we achieving the outcomes that we needed to be able to achieve?
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And I think, like me, you can probably speak this fairly well because of the event series you've been a part of as well. But that whole, ultimately, if an AI initiative doesn't land, and you touched on training, that's definitely part of it. But that whole ease of use versus perceived usefulness, if it's difficult to understand or use, hence the training thing, but also if the perceived usefulness isn't well understood, e.g., I'm thinking with Sam, for example, the things that you can get it to do inside of First Focus, I'm always surprised when I ask it for something and someone, I didn't think of that. It's like that, I didn't realize. Like, so how do you, I guess, have you seen it done well where someone has created that sense of certainty around ease of use and perceived usefulness?
Oh, look, I think the first thing is you've got to, I don't think there's a rollout where you just give it to everyone. Like, it has to be staged. Like
a champion almost to start with. Okay.
You have to have groups and then you build on it, because it's got to be agile, and you've got to pivot quickly if it isn't working. But you've got to, like, it's just like everything else we've spoken about today. there is no one size fits all. It's different scenarios for different business use cases, not just per business, but within the business. So you have to pick, a particular department, say, that are really passionate for it, or like have this great idea, or where you think that they've got the capacity to try something new perhaps. But then you build on that and you understand, okay, well, that's where it worked well, that's where it didn't. We need to go back to the drawing board. Then you can go, cool, these are things that are going to apply to the whole business. These are things that are going to stay just with marketing. And then you go, right, cool, now we've made these learnings. Now we understand that we need this, this, and this. Then let's now try that with finance or, IT or whatever.
So is that something that often you find AI projects, they go too big, essentially? They try and do everything for everyone rather than a specific initiative for a specific group of people, get a champion, embed it, and then what next? Okay.
And I think it's all timing and it all depends on the need. Some businesses are kind of doing these bespoke rollouts of AI before they're doing the data cleanup because of various different reasons. And sometimes I'd be okay with that and most of the time not. But you've got kind of people branching out and going, we're just going to build this because it connects to our sales system and the sales data seems okay and we're going to pull it in and we're going to present it in our teams and we're going to, and so maybe that's okay. But, a lot of the time, if they're going to try to make it more broad, the only instance where I think it's going to work is if it's on, say, like a SharePoint intranet and it's, whole of company sort of related content. So, things like onboarding and you have like a little agent that only draws from the onboarding space and then, all those that has the tone of the business and stuff like that. But yeah, it's very seldom that you could sort of go, yep, cool, let's roll this out.
Okay.
We also, I've seen organisations take what I would call a confetti approach.
Oh, lovely.
So they confetti licenses around just random, like, you're standing on top of the building.
You have a license. You have a license.
But rather than, and I think, Mia, your point is so relevant in that let's trial it with this group of people and then with this group of people, because that can actually give us measurements. Trialing it with this individual, this individual, this individual, this individual is really difficult because they don't have a cohort to kind of work with and discover together.
That's
and
so
things
true.
like
And
that.
then it does really rely on the individual's habit and appetite for it. So, like you were saying, Brendan, like if people don't go and have that initiative, or you go, I know how I'm going to use it. Like if they don't have that idea, then
or when they see someone
they're not
else
going to use it,
getting really cool stuff or doing stuff faster than they are, or maybe not having to invest, so much effort in something or things like that. Yeah, you get that whole peer pressure kind of, I want what they've got.
Yeah.
But if there's only one person in the team who's got it and can do that kind of stuff, it's really difficult to measure how did this impact this area of the business. You can say, well, that impacted that one person. Maybe it would have failed for like literally everybody else. We don't know. So don't take a confetti approach is my is my advice. Definitely concentrate on a couple of key areas, particularly when we're talking about a pilot. Concentrate on a couple of key areas. Work with them. Define what your outcomes are. Define what your measures are. Put some technology in to help you measure that kind of stuff.
It's actually how, like, if you look up the Microsoft Learning, like the adoption site for Microsoft, when you look at Copilot, it actually gives you the scenario of like a plane, and you've got the Copilot, go Microsoft. So they've got like stages. They've got economy and business and coach and like however they term it. But and that's how they sort of talk about it. So pick your, I guess they don't say first class, but coach versus all the other classes, I guess.
But let's do a bit of a recap. Talk to me about the key types of issues when it comes to data governance and management that would lead to AI initiatives really just not landing.
The number one thing, honestly, is rot data. Redundant, obsolete, trivial. And I know we've said that again and again and again.
No, it's worth repeating.
So like literally everyone write this one down. Get it tattooed on yourself somewhere, because it is the foundational thing of AI success. It is that it can only be as successful as the data that it has access to. That's it. It really truly is as simple as that. And so without that really solid data foundation, you're never going to get the outcomes that you're looking for. And we've talked a little bit about this as we've discussed this topic in other episodes as well. But how much trust do the users actually have in it? How willing are they to engage with it because they're getting the results that they need, or are things better for them than what they were before? And that all relies on the information that it has access to, that it can learn from, that it can use, and things like that. So if you don't have that set first, you're essentially setting yourself up for some kind of failure, because it's just not going to give you the results that you need.
Okay. But so let's say at the moment of the launch, you've got really good data. How do you keep that data accurate and up to date? Like, how do you see that done well? Who owns every piece of data, and how do you make sure that
can't do it by yourself? We've also said that in other episodes. Like, you need some form of support tool to do this for you. Okay. It's not a set and forget. It is a constant thing of cleaning your data. Okay, so you can have all the governance in place, you can have all the policies in place, but you still have users in there messing up the house. You still have to, review the content, and you can schedule archive processes and all that sort of stuff, but that doesn't necessarily get rid of that rot data every time, because the business evolves, or you just can't really pick some of those things up in some of that automated policies and governance.
So around those automated tools, I mean, maybe this is an impossible problem to solve, but you've got time since last update, I imagine. You've got last time, obviously, it was updated, so you can see, well, someone's been modified, in there. But how do you know if it was modified well or not? Like, how do you documents change that?
I guess it's not even about being modified. It's about, it might be the greatest document ever written, and even if it hasn't been modified in 7 years, everyone's referencing it every day. Yeah. And so that's why tools are really important, because, and again, I'll reference ours, obviously, but you can run rules on when was it last accessed. So has anybody actually looked at it?
Yeah, not just changed it,
but looked at it.
But then what about the quality of the change? So it's been looked at recently, it's been updated recently, but the update turns out is crap. Like, someone wrote some paragraph about something that's just fundamentally wrong. Like, is there any easy way to make sure that doesn't happen, so that the AI itself doesn't hallucinate, or technically not hallucinate, it's saying what it thinks is right, but it's off crap data?
I think you've probably just reminded us all that it is a technology, and we do need to sanity check that stuff. I was only listening to a video a couple of days ago, just talking about the fact that people are getting really lazy with this stuff as well. Like, let's not sugarcoat that. Yeah. And they're just punching stuff out and then going, cool, here you go. Yeah. No actual reference to not owning it and going, well, I used AI for this. It's kind of like, they're actually not even removing the prompt from it. Like, they're just going, cool, I just wrote this thing and here it is. And so there is this whole other element of, you do need to sanity check some of this stuff. However, if it is within your own environment and these things are coming, and this is why coming up, and this is why it's so important to do your pilot programs, because it will come up in some of those, and then you can address it and kind of keep moving forward. But there isn't really any silver bullet here. Like, you need to do the work. There's no kind of like, we still need to sanity check what we're doing. We still need to own our roles and what we're doing. And this is, in the instance of Microsoft 365, this is a Copilot. This isn't Pilot. Yeah. So we do need to still...
It's called Copilot, not Autopilot.
Yeah. So we still need to,
It really comes down to that. So you almost need to have subject matter experts, at least able to... If you're asking to do something, you have to, as a user, have enough knowledge to understand whether it's full of crap. And that's still kind of the gotcha.
Yeah. So I think your question was, how can we stop users writing crappy documents? Well, we can't. It's unfortunate. Sometimes people write rubbish. I mean, I've been guilty of it myself, definitely. The second part of that,
hire better, fire better.
Be better. Just be better at your job. That's it. That's how you solve that one. The other part of that, though, is how do we identify where AI is giving us not optimal results. And that comes down to critical thinking. So this is something that I think is one of the most important things that we really have to reiterate with our users, but even with students coming up through the school system and the university systems and things like that. Oh my goodness. So just as an example.
Holy potatoes. Love that.
My last name is Tait. I'm allowed to.
That's good. Sorry, Alyssa, please carry
on. My very newly teenage daughter has recently been hassling me for a very expensive name brand drink bottle that everybody, mum, everybody has this drink bottle. Everybody needs a drink bottle.
Not you.
Yeah. I was like, well, go and live with their family and they can buy you a drink bottle. Your Kmart drink bottle's still going. You're fine. And so anyway, so we looked up all of these. She came to me and said, look at all of these great reviews on this drink bottle. And we went through and I looked at it with her and I said, okay, let's do a critical analysis of these. Let's look at all of the 5-star reviews and see what they actually say. And what it showed us was a lot of the 5-star reviews said the drink bottle failed almost immediately, but the customer support was really good. And so I said to her, well, hang on a minute. Is that actually saying it's a good drink bottle or is that saying customer service is really good? Then we found in the same thing, the same person, the same set of reviews, the same person was commenting. This one person called Matthew. And yeah, Matthew's a relatively common name, but it was a little bit extreme. And I said to her, I'm pretty sure Matthew works in the marketing department of said drink bottle company because we're still getting the same things again. And ultimately,
or he's got a hyperfixation real bad.
Yeah, that's right. But ultimately, she actually decided that no, she didn't want that drink bottle at all because once we'd critically assessed some of these reviews that were written, she could make a decision about actually maybe this drink bottle isn't all it's cut out to be.
Like what you did there.
Yeah. And so it is the same for our users. Also, you're not getting the drink bottle, okay? That's it.
Yeah.
But it's the same for our users. Yeah. How are we encouraging and requiring that our users critically assess what AI is giving them? And you have to think about it like an intern. You can't think about it like a professor in a particular subject matter expert. They can give you the start of the information, but then it's up to you to sort of say, oh no, there's a correction here, or this isn't quite right, or let's go back and look at this again, or things like that. You cannot take it as it comes. You still have a responsibility here as well.
Fair. You remind me about how I stumbled across bridge reviews. Like if you're ever driving in we have company Teslas, and you can see on the map they've got little landmarks. If you click on ones like the Sundale Bridge in the Gold Coast, so many people have reviewed this bridge, like, great bridge, really sturdy, 5 stars. Like just all the stuff like great place to have a wee when walking home, 5 stars. It's just like there's just all these bridge reviews. It's just wild. Anyway.
I love it, and immediately starts to Google. Excuse me a moment, is that the time?
Yeah.
Looks like I need to go.
Yeah, we've got things to do.
Now, look, okay, great way to wrap up episode 4. So this is pretty much, we're through 2/3 of the series now. Next week, actually in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back with how to clean up legacy data from file servers, presumably before moving it over to SharePoint, and also how to manage your information lifecycle. So if you
It'll be fun. Data,
join us.
So much more fun than it sounds. It's going to be awesome.
All right. I thought it sounded great.
Alyssa would. On that front, Alyssa Blackburn, massive SharePoint nerd, on LinkedIn, and Mia Tait also LinkedIn as well if you'd like to get in touch. And as always, we are all about taking comments and on YouTube and on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going. If you want to dive into SharePoint, let us know.
Alyssa and I are going to roll out into our own podcast.
That's
here.
Exactly right.
So tell us what you want to hear.
Yeah, fair. And,
SharePoint and parenting tips.
Yeah, that's right.
I will see myself out. All right. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.